Well, for all of the latest in markets and finance news, we're now joined by Suzanne Haddan, who is the Managing Director at PFG Financial Services. Suzanne, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here on Weekend Breakfast. Let's take a look at these markets. Of course, rattled by the news that President Trump has been diagnosed with coronavirus. This, of course, adding to more uncertainties that we'd already seen over the coming elections.
We certainly didn't need any more uncertainty. I think it would have been much more of a bloodbath overnight if his symptoms were severe. Bear in mind, the US market was up over the week, but we performed quite poorly, particularly, as you say, yesterday, once the Trump announcement. But I've said before, volatility is here to stay for some time, and also the election is weighing on the market at this point.
And of course, it would depend on the result of the elections as well. And that would then have a reverberating impact on the markets going forward.
Absolutely. It's said that the markets would prefer a Trump win. I'm not completely convinced with that, because both parties will have to have significant stimulus to keep the economy afloat, and will continue to have low interest rates. And those are the things that help assets, whether that be the share market, whether that be the property market, but also consumer sentiment. If there's confidence money will flow, that is likely to help consumer sentiment. But remember, that's always on the back that we don't have further extensive tragedies with the pandemic we're dealing with, because that will rattle markets.
Fingers crossed, Suzanne. Let's come back
absolutely.
to news out of Australia. And, you know, earlier this year, we saw millions of Australians taking up the offers from banks and to press pause on their mortgage payments. Now, that, of course, that deferral holiday is about to come to an end for many Australians right now. Some banks are starting to look at these deferment again and possibly offering another few months of holidays for their clients. Would you advise clients to take this offer up?
Well, the first thing to remember is not to, what they say, ghost your lender. Don't avoid the call. You need to deal with this issue. If you need the extension, of course, look at it. But let's remember there's other things you can do. Firstly, you could ask for a reduction in your interest rate. You could extend the period of your loan. But also banks are looking at possibly changing you from a principal and interest repayment to an interest-only repayment. And what that can mean is your repayments might reduce by over a third. Just be careful there, because sometimes they might try to increase your interest rate on interest only, because you generally pay more to do that. The banks are going to try to keep people in their own homes, and that probably isn't going to be the case for investment properties. So a little bit more risk there, I think.
Right. Suzanne, of course, we've only got a month left to get our tax returns in. We love talking to you about our tax returns. Many of us have been working from home, of course. We had you on the show a little earlier talking about the sort of claims you can make while you're working from home as well. But it's really not as simple as it seems.
No, and as a registered tax agent, I can absolutely tell you it's not as simple as it seems, but there are things that can help you. First of all, with working from home, we spoke about the shortcut deduction for those that don't want to keep the records, which is 80 cents per hour. There are other choices. You can actually claim actual cost of some of those expenses, and that's where you may have bought a laptop computer, office furniture. You may be significantly shortchanging yourself if you only use the shortcut method of 80 cents in the dollar. But if you're going to use other methods, there's going to be more onerous record-keeping responsibilities. Now, the tax office does have a calculator on their website, so you can compare the different options for claiming this deduction. Also helpful is they have a list of employment classifications and give you tips for what deductions you can claim. There's one for media professionals, there's one for train drivers, there's also one for adult industry workers. So there's strategies you can use to maximise your deductions, which is obviously the main interest on tax returns for people completing them. Also, you can extend the time to submit your tax return if you are using a registered tax agent. We get, of course, most of the year to work through our client base. and also use that if you need further help.
Right. All very good tips. Of course, we're looking towards the federal budget next Tuesday. Suzanne, what are you in particular looking out for?
Well, like most people, I want to see infrastructure spending, and they have to be project ready. I think one of the areas they could look at is maintenance and improvements of existing infrastructure, which I think could be spent much quicker and stimulate activity and employment. But we need to look at small business. That is the major employer of this country and the area that has suffered the most through this pandemic. We need to see investment allowances extended to encourage businesses to bring forward projects, to invest and stimulate the economy. We also need to see a massive reduction in red tape and government fees for small business, whether that be from ASIC or other departments. It's adding thousands of dollars of cost for small business. So there are a couple of areas I'm popular on.
All right, we'll have a look to see what happens on Tuesday. Suzanne Haddan there from BFG Financial. Thank you.
Thank you.